everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Devs on Devs. And today we have a very wonderful guest in the house. His name is Femi Taiwo. I've known him for at least 15, if not close to 20 years. We started out in tech around the same time. Okay, maybe I started a little bit earlier. I have that over him. But he's a Google developer expert. He's a certified cloud professional architect, and he's the co-founder and CTO of INITS. Now, I don't know for the love of God why it's called INITS, so I'll let him answer that. But INITS is known most notable for the voters registration app, I think since 2010. And you know, they were the ones that worked with the federal government to make sure that we have the ability to vote, counting results, so on and so forth. But I'll let him do a lot more of the introduction and talking about himself. So without much further ado, Femi Taiwo. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Chuka. I'm very happy to be here. I've been watching the Dev on Dev interviews we had in the past with Emotu, with Ire, and it's been quite exciting. So I'm really glad to be here. INITS.
Yes, INITS.
Stands for Innovative IT Solutions, which sort of captures what we do at INITS. We focus on creating technology solutions for businesses and government agencies, which is what took us to developing a solution that is still being used 10 years later by INEC in Nigeria, and has taken us to 3 other African countries actually.
3 other African, okay, yes. Now I did not know that. 3 other African countries, so yes. And can I come and work for you? There's sound like there's plenty money. There's plenty money where you are, guys. I mean, he's living the dream, I'm telling you. But 3 other African countries, okay, so in terms of tech, how did you build the the voters registration app? What is it called, by the way? Did you give it a name?
Yes, so we call it OpenVR,
okay,
which stands for Open Voters Registration. We started out in 2010 itself. Myself and a couple of guys with the company, my wife, who I co-founded INITS and still run it with.
Shout out to Roke. Roke, how you doing? Say hi. We'll get you on the show soon, sometime.
Interestingly, we've been working together longer than we've been married. Working together for 11 years, married for 10. Myself, a couple of people bounded together and decided to go to INEC as patriotic Nigerians to build out the voters registration system, and we're quite happy about it. And we spent 3-4 months building that out for them. And technology that we used Qt, something many people may not really know much about. It's a C++ framework, and it's amazing for building desktop apps. And
you just said C++. I'll park that there and just move on.
Yes, so interestingly, there's a tendency to look at some of those languages as old, but the truth is you find that they have very, very valid and efficient use cases that makes them more suitable for some of these things.
Okay, I mean, I think it's interesting enough, but in terms of like underlying database, so like I'm assuming you use C++ for like the front end application or the user interface that users exactly. But in terms of like infrastructure, in terms of, I'm not talking about DevOps now, but in terms of infrastructure, distribution, the middleware, the middle layer that handled all the logic in terms of capturing the data and saving it. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So OpenVR, as built by INITS, runs on the Ubuntu operating system, right? And it was important to create or build it on top of a system that would allow us lock down that system against any form of malicious attacks or access or hackers trying to access the information inside. And of course, database, MySQL, good old MySQL, well, not so old, but good, reliable MySQL, which gives us access to a lot of fantastic database functionality. And the rest of it happens in the back end, which
we already know.
Yeah.
All right, let me switch gears a bit. So tell the viewers, because I mean, as everybody who's come on the show, we always try to find out, your journey into development and your journey into tech. So tell us how you started in development. How did you start coding? How did you start programming? How did you get into tech in the first place? Fun story,
Good question, yeah. Fun story. Now I look back at that period with happiness, but it didn't quite start out that way. I got to university in 1999, and then my admission was withdrawn. Right.
Okay.
They saw that there's some irregularities in my JAM form.
Okay.
Right.
But you got into, was it Unilag?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Right.
Sorry, yeah.
Well, to maybe more specific about the irregularities, I think at that point I had chosen Unilag as my second choice.
I see.
And not my first choice, and I think it was a policy against it, but somehow that was missed. So it was withdrawn. So
FYI, I chose Unilag first choice, Unilag second choice in my second job form because of this policy. So Unilag, if you guys are listening, not cool, man, not cool. But kind of.
Right. So when I got back home, thankfully, my sister sent her computer to me because she knew I was depressed, right, from that experience. I'd spent about 8-9 weeks in school already before this incident happened. And that was when I found out about things called QBasic, and then started to play around, read the help file, and that really was the most exciting start to my journey in programming. 1 year at home doing nothing other than just waking up in the morning and starting up the computer, learning how to get in QBasic, and then eventually grew up to Visual Basic, then picked up many other languages along the way.
Yeah, so I remember, fun story, I remember, so we and Femi, we kind of shared the same dorm room while we were in school, so he of course eventually got into lag. And I remember Femi used to, was one of the only individuals that I knew that used to do Visual Basic. Was it Visual Basic?
Yes.
And then, but Femi used to do animation. Can you guys believe that? There was a time he actually used to do animation. Tell us about that. What happened?
So, well, I was being very adventurous, trying my hands at so many different things, hoping I would find what sticks. And I'm happy there was a conversation you and I had. I don't think you remember it, but I remember it because it was very pivotal for me, right? The summary, not these words, but the summary from that conversation was that I didn't really have the talent to do animations.
I never said those words.
Right, not those words, but the conclusion from it, right? And I took it very seriously because it came from a place of let's call it love, right? Or a play from a good place, right? And I'm glad I took that because I didn't focus on the other thing I thought I knew how to do well, right? Which I do not do well now, right? Which is software development. And I try to answer different things, networking, computer assembly, doing things like that, right? And but development has been the thing that, or engineering has been the thing that has really helped me, or I've really grown in that particular area, and has been the foundation for INITS.
Got it. And as you were speaking about that conversation that we had, and I remember that era in our room. Do you remember when we had internet access in our dorm room?
We were like demigods in the entire hostel.
In the whole hostel.
Yeah.
Funny story. I mean, I think it's too late. Nothing can happen to us now. But so a friend of ours, Kunle Oedeji, an older friend, I see him as someone who shaped part of my personality and who I am, and decisions I made. I'd link a lot to him. Kunle Oedeji, if you're listening and you're watching, thank you so much. So he had a cyber cafe, and there were quite a bunch of us who were around him and working at the cyber cafe, during our lunch or break. We were there 24/7, let's be honest. Like, if we're not in class and not in the dorm room, we're there.
Yes.
So there's this cyber cafe named Southel. They came, installed the internet router there, and for some strange reason, I found a way to get into the configuration box, and I was able to get extra IP addresses, and I got a Wi-Fi dongle, and I got a system in our room, and I configured it, and voila, it worked. Internet free. When I showed Femi, he literally blew his mind, like, what? And a lot of people asked, how did we? And I was like, no, we're bad guys. We're just geniuses. No, it's not true. We just found a loophole and took advantage of it. Don't do it. So moving on. So let's switch gears. So now you are the co-founder of INITS, right? You lead the technology team. You're the CTO. So first, do you still code?
Yes, I still code.
Actively every day?
Not every day, but actively. right?
All right, but you're probably in a more management role, even though you still code, where you still review, you do code reviews, do pair programming. So from your day-to-day work, like what kind of tools do you use? Like what kind of IDs, what platforms do you have an affinity for, programming languages do you have an affinity for? Tell us about that side of your experience with tech.
So my day is split up into three, right? So meetings, code reviews, and meetings sometimes take me out. For the code that I still write, my IDE of choice is NetBeans, right? But that's
like, I'm laughing. You know why I'm laughing? I'm sorry to cut you short, but I'm laughing because Ire was here not too long ago, and she talked about the brother of NetBeans. It was I don't remember the idea. She was saying that it takes about an hour to start, and I feel like all of them in that family. Is that right?
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, it takes maybe 15 seconds, right,
really?
to start out. Yeah.
How long does it take VS Code to start?
Maybe 5 seconds.
Okay. So
right.
we'll be waiting for 15 seconds. Do you know how much work could have been done in 15 seconds?
So I would rather spend that time thinking through, right?
Nice.
Well, I think was why I somehow have stuck to NetBeans is familiarity, right? And also because I don't code as much, so I enjoy the familiarity, and I have all of these shortcuts and things set up that works really well. I've moved them to Visual Code, by the way, but when I'm like in the zone and I want to stay in the zone, NetBeans really helps me to do that.
So to be honest, if I'm being fair, it's just me. It's my personal nature to tease. That everybody who knows me knows that I'm always teasing to things I have an affinity for. There's nothing wrong with NetBeans or and all that. The IntelliJ family, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just if I have an affinity for something, I always like to tease the other people to come over to the other side. You know what I mean? So it has nothing to do with that. If it works for you, please keep using it. There's no need to jump. If you can be productive, like he said, then that's what really matters. Okay, so let's talk about, you were going on to talk about, programming languages and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so this year represents 20 years of essentially programming for me, right? So along the way, I've picked up so many different languages, right? So
impressive.
Going back to Visual Basic, I can't remember how to code in Visual Basic any longer, right? Then PHP, Node, JavaScript, Python, and C++. Essentially the languages that I write in. But more often than not, I'm either writing in PHP right now or writing in Python.
So if they wake you up tomorrow and they said, build this API that can do XYZ, you would use PHP?
Most like I would use PHP would be the default, right? Be the default. But the good thing is this, right? I have a team of 35, 38 developers who then do different things. So they do Java, they do .NET. They do,
but how easy is it to manage a team of diverse, coders and diverse programming languages? It must be quite difficult, especially from a peer review standpoint. You know what I mean? Like when you have to review their code. And I'm not saying maybe that burden falls on your shoulders alone, but I mean, as a technology unit, you have to figure out a way to keep something like that going. So how do you make sure code quality is at its most optimum when there's a diverse, code base or code range, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do, and it's I'll call it a work in progress, right? Simply because not having, as myself, right, not having requisite foundation for example, reviewing code written in Java, maybe Spring Boot framework, then puts me at a disadvantage to be able to properly assess what has been done. So what I find myself doing a lot more is trying to establish a well-defined process and logic for anything that needs to be done, right? So if you can teach the process of properly solving a problem, thinking through a problem, right? And then what sort of logic and considerations and use cases need to be planned for and built for. Most cases, the developer will do the right thing, the right way, right? And what also helps is we have a tight quality assurance team that then monitors what's being done to make sure that happens. But that said, there's nothing more important than having the right kind of people on your team who have the capacity to actually do these reviews. So not all the reviews come to me. Most of them actually don't come to me. You have team leads across the different language stacks or technology stacks who can then monitor that. I think that's the most effective way to do it. Any other way you can't scale with any other way.
Let's switch gears a bit, right? So we are both Google developer experts, right? And we're certified cloud professionals. I guess just the two of us in cloud in Nigeria, I guess. There's nobody else in cloud.
Timothy?
Oh, Timothy.
Yeah.
My apologies, Timothy. Yes, you're one of us.
Kano.
Yeah, in Kano. Yeah. But this John.
Robert John. Yeah.
Robert
Double
John.
barrel.
Yeah, double barrel guy. I mean, shout out to him. We were in San Francisco last year before lockdown. Or was it 2 years ago? Next 19. What's next? Yeah. And you were kind of celebrated as, very top of the line, developer in the ecosystem and so on and so forth. And, we saw your video on, the big screens. And I was kind of proud of that moment. How did that feel for you? I mean, it was you alongside other developers, but, I think the montage started with you.
Yes.
How did that feel?
Yeah. It was... To be honest, was mind-blowing. I knew what was going to happen because of course I did the recording, right? But seeing it live on stage was huge, and I think more importantly, it was also a signal to people across the world that there are people with capacity doing interesting things within the space here in Nigeria or in Africa as a whole, or sub-Saharan Africa, right? And people should pay more attention. We actually have a lot of quality developers in Nigeria and of course the rest of Africa. Surfacing them sometimes can be very difficult, so it's important to look for, not poster boy, but look for, not rockstar, look for examples, right, to sort of inspire more people to get much better and see that there are places you can get to as well.
Yeah, inspiration, aspiration, it's important. I mean, it was one of the finer and prouder moments that I've had as a Nigerian developer, in San Francisco, in the Google Moscone Center, and then seeing, our own people being celebrated. I mean, there were other developers, I think maybe there were 5 in total, but telling your story and telling everybody else's story was such a dream for us. And why I say so is this: they didn't even just talk about you as a Google developer expert. They talked about you and your founding company and what you were doing in Nigeria. And I think that was just fantastic. So, I've got a bunch of questions, but I know I have to kind of wrap this up. But I'm gonna ask just 2 more questions. I think the first is, do you guys have a DevOps culture at all? That's one. And if you do, what does that look like?
Answer is Bitbucket pipelines, right? That's what we use to do our deployments. So the usual, we create on Git flow, the different branches, feature branches, do that, goes through a review process, then gets merged into develop, it gets pushed to the staging environment, or the dev environment, depends on the project. And then when it gets merged with master, a release branch is created, then pushed to the system itself. I mean, that's basically how it runs. Every company should have something that works for them, right? So we found that works for us currently, and that's what we use.
How do you do it because I know you're also you're an outsourcing consulting company as well. So which means if you have projects that you want to develop, you've got the big box, INLTS can build it for you, trust me. But how do you manage, because I understand, like, you DevOps culture, you said, got it, right? But you're doing this for multiple companies. Is there a particular strategy that you use, or you set this up each time for each company?
So we already have,
or each client rather.
Yeah. So we already have like templates. So we do have to maintain those templates individually, right? That's a problem we need to solve, because if I were to calculate how many servers we had or how many deployments we have running actively right now, I think it's north of 70.
Wow.
Right? Different projects doing different things, 7 different clients, many of them mission critical, right? So it's actually good that it's separate so that you don't create a breaking change when you make changes, right? And we sort of manage, for most of these clients, we actually manage their infrastructure. So that simplifies the process, right? So with a well-defined access control process, we just do the deployments that way. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, well, at least you found a system that works for you, and I think that's the most important thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's a good policy to work. All right, we're wrapping this up. I mean, I wish we could stay here longer, but before you sign out, do you have any advice you have for younger ones? I mean, they they see, your life. I'm sure they Google you or figure you out, and then they would want to get to know you more. So, what advice do you have for the people who are coming after us, who or not just after us, or even people who are still at age mates coming into tech, and what advice do you have for them? Coming into tech, what should they? Just speak to them. They're over there.
Yeah. So, advice for young people coming into tech. I think it's a very good time for you to do so. I think the opportunities are massive. I think you should take every learning opportunity that you can find. If it means working for free, right, without expecting a financial reward in return, I think you should take those opportunities. I did several of that when I was starting out, and I still do that every now and then, because I find that those opportunities actually end up empowering you to do even more or becoming more, whether it's employable, valuable is the word, right? Making you more valuable to whoever may want your skills or whatever it is you want to do in life. Get involved in the community that you have around you. The GDG is a massive community across Africa, across sub-Saharan Africa at least. And in Nigeria, I think there are over 40 of them. I also have the DSCs in universities. The other thing you should also do is stay in touch with people that are better than you are. If you can't find them, right, stay in touch, or find people who are at least at the same level as you are and learn from them. If you have an opportunity to teach people, you should also do that, because it ends up feeding you to become even much better than you currently are. Look for people that you can track. They don't have to be your mentors that you can talk to every other day, but look for people that inspire you. Those stories are really important because they help you become a much better person. Don't be afraid to put out that project that is on localhost. Put it out there. You may get just 2, 5, or 8 users, right? Not the 100,000 users you're expecting, but the feedback you get from that 5 or 8 would actually help you become a much better person. You should do that. And then lastly is look for what makes you happy, right? Don't be stuck. If I was stuck doing animations, I think I may not be on this show right now, right? So don't figure out what you can get good at and spend time becoming really good at it. Like, become undeniably good, which is what I did with PHP, right? And that's been the foundation for the rest of the company to do what we do, right? Because the logic is mostly the same. The thought process, the ability to solve problems, your problem-solving skills will be grown as you spend time developing and learning things. I think that's it.
That was a lot, and it's crunchy stuff. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you so much, Femi, for coming through. He came all the way to the studio, even though we're in the Rona season. So please, thanks so much. I appreciate that. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.